For a session presented by FLYR, please welcome Principal Architect of Google Cloud, Mike Melton, and Vice President of Product and Offer and Order at FLYR, Kartik Yellepeddi, in discussion with SkiftX Research Editor, Dan Marcec.
All right. I guess a good act to follow with Stephen before us.
Absolutely.
The audience is engaged and entertained.
Yes.
We'll try to do our best to do the same. So Kartik, Mike, thanks for joining us. So we're talking about reimagining the modern retail experience. Kartik, let's unpack that a little bit. What exactly needs to be modernized here in airline retailing? And what does that look like both from an operational standpoint on the airline side as well as from the customer experience standpoint?
Yeah, I mean, for me, travel as, there's one word that comes to mind when I think about travel, and that is anxiety, right? So I'm shopping, I'm looking for flights here and hotels there, and then I don't know if I'm getting a great deal, but I still go ahead and hit the pay button. Hopefully the payment has gone through. I'm ready to travel. I don't know what the kids are going to do on the 12-hour flight. And then is my bag on board? Is my connection going to be okay? Is my hotel booking going to be okay if I miss my connection? So there's a lot of anxiety. We don't experience this anywhere else in our life, in my opinion, as much as we do when we travel. And I mean, if you think about it, it's not like airlines are conspiring to create this anxiety, right?
Hope not.
I strongly believe that they're missing some tools to be able to remove that anxiety. So for me, modern retailing is how do you remove that anxiety from a customer's journey? And the tools that they're missing are things like very basic things you would expect somebody, a retailer would have, like launching a new product, bringing in new partners so that I can make the trip a bit more fun. Launching new products is, if you remember during COVID, every airline wanted to launch this product where you can reserve the seat next to you.
Right.
It turns out that you can't have the same person having two seats on the same flight thanks to the technology we use today. It's like Amazon saying that, sorry, you already have a copy of that book, you can't get another one. So things like this. And then they're also missing tools about how do you price these, how do you make sure you package them, and how do you distribute them, and things like that. So for us, it's, when I think about it, how do you bring these tools? And you need to bring these tools while you're still running the airline, which means you need tools to bring these tools and making sure that things are working well when you're transitioning from one technology stack to another technology stack.
Right. And so, Mike, welcome. You're here because you work with a lot of airlines, and literally, as your title suggests, you're the architect of some of these, putting all these tools together. So, Kartik, I think you explained really well what the challenges are and what we want to do. So how do we start to put that together from a technology standpoint, Mike?
Yeah, so when you look at the airline industry, airlines have done an amazing job of creating transactional systems, right? I mean, before internet, they had this network that they could sell O&D anywhere, right? But now with retailing, that's changing to decisional-based systems, right? So I need to know or need to make some decisions about what does that customer want. So instead of now looking and selling just O&D, you're selling to a customer and making decisions. So those transactional systems, they still have to be there. You still have to sell that seat. But now you have to think about how do I get that customer to buy that seat? And that's through the decision-making process. And underlying that, and from Google, you wouldn't be surprised, it's all about data, right? Yes. So, we have a statement now that AI is such a big deal, no data, as in NO data, no AI.
Yes.
You can't do AI without the data.
Right, and yeah, to that point, this is not the first time I'm sure that we've talked about AI today, and it certainly won't be the last. How is that going to play a role in really, modernizing what we're seeing both as customers and as well as on the back end?
Right. So AI is completely revolutionizing the way we're thinking about things. Certainly we talk about personalization, right? People are already thinking about, okay, how do I know the customer? How do I know what they want to buy? How do I know what their value is to the airline? Those are all things that come in and are part of that decision about what to offer the customer. So that's definitely done in real time. The only way you can get it done in real time is through AI, right? The second part we don't think about quite as much, but that's the convenience and the assistance to both the customer and the airline, right? You can, now you can build chatbots in an hour that used to take weeks to build, right? You can give customers information online and help them make decisions in minutes. You can talk to customers through a chatbot as if they're talking to a real human, and they can make those decisions. So it's going to permeate everywhere, whether it's ground operations or cargo or whatever, but that AI is that decision-making process that we talked about earlier.
Yeah. Right. And we see a lot of enthusiasm for AI, obviously. And in fact, so Skift and FLYR partnered on a survey of executives across travel and hospitality just last month, and had some really interesting data come out of that. About 2/3 of airline executives said that AI was going to be very important, so the top answer, to their commercial operations over the next 5 years. And I think that's terribly surprising. At the same time, only 38% strongly agreed that they were getting a measurable ROI on initiatives where they were implementing AI. So there's this gap, right, between the kind of interest and enthusiasm and the actual execution of it. So Kartik, how do we bridge that gap? What are some of the things that companies can do in order to kind of either start, continue, go forth on their journey to building this new experience?
Yeah, I mean, for me, AI as a technology is there. So it's all about how we use it, right? So it really boils down to 3 things in my mind. One is data. We absolutely, as you were saying, no data, no AI. But data also in a way that it's very important to tie business decisions to outcomes, right? So that middleware that ties the business decision to outcomes is important, because then you can just show an AI that data and it'll make better decisions because it knows how to optimize for the outcomes. Right. So collecting the data in this form of not transactional, but decisions to outcomes is the first step. I would say the next step is really about having control on how these decisions are distributed, right? You can make the decision, but it's like, you can come with the best self-driving technology, but if you have to plug it into a 1960 Cadillac, it's not going to work, right? So you need the way to plug it into your business, and that requires, modern technology that can enable this API-driven sort of plug-in mechanism, so that your decisions, you can track those decisions all the way to whether the customer is seeing them or not. And the third one is really about, I would say, the cultural change that has to happen. We need to bring in a lot more talent into the industry. We need to make sure that we invest into the space, because it's not going to magically just tomorrow make it all work, right? So we still have humans who have to make this thing work, right? So, so I would say investment into the right people and skills so that they can take this technology and make use of it is probably the third thing that I would bring to the table.
Yeah, that's interesting. Actually, you brought up the talent piece of it. And in the survey that we conducted, interestingly enough, companies said that they were more confident in having the talent, but less confident in actually having the training to implement these AI systems. Do you guys have any comment on making that?
I mean, I can tell you right now, in an AI world, airlines are not competing with other airlines. One, they're competing with Netflix and Amazon when it comes to wallet share and timeshare. And they're competing with Googles and Amazons when it comes to skills and talent. That is the competition that we are facing. It is not about airline A versus airline B anymore. It's really about travel versus the rest of the places where I can spend my money.
That's really interesting.
I do think there's a gap, and it's a gap with any industry and with anybody, because especially generative AI is so new and so new on the market. There's a gap about how it's going to be used from a CIO's perspective, And I think that more than ever, the CIO at an airline is going to have to rely on other parties to understand what that gap is and how to fill it, right? Whether it's a AI provider or a ISV that is helping with them, they're going to have to be relying on somebody else because it's just not in-house.
Yeah.
And is that something that you think should be in-house, or do you think that this is the way that things are going, and these partnerships and these kind of cross-functional types of relationships are going to be the future?
I mean, I guess for me it's hybrid, right? So absolutely, at the end of the day, the data is the one that, if you take business entity 1, business entity 2, whoever has better data is better poised to win, right, at the end of the day. But at the same time, a lot of businesses that are dedicated, like Googles of the world, they've spent a lot of time building technology that we should just take advantage of. There's no point reinventing a TPU or things like that. But at the same time, there needs to be enough in-house talent because, again, you need to make sure that you make the best. Only your people would understand your business the best. No vendor would understand your business the best. So I would say it's reuse as much as possible and then bring in your own sort of expertise.
Right.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. There is nobody that knows your business better than yourself, and rely on the other people to bring in what you don't have.
Right. All right, so we're going to pull up a QR code here. If you'd like to learn more, please scan the code, visit FLYR.com, learn more about the modern retailing experience in AI. And Mike, Kartik, thank you so much for your time. It's been great to have you on stage.
Thank you
for having us.